Welcome to Roaming with Restless Women, real talk with dynamic, wise women leaders. Today, my guest is Erin Randel. She's a MD. And full disclosure, Erin is my first cousin and the first in our family to become a doctor. She grew up in Bishop, California, and then moved to Southern California for college and med school. She went to the Keck School of Medicine of the University of Southern California, and she never left the area. She enjoys all aspects of women's health, but she's particularly interested in, minimally invasive gynecology. She is passionate about providing high quality surgical care while giving her patients the chance to return to their normal lives as quickly as possible. In her spare time, she enjoys yoga, hiking, and running, and spending time with family and friends. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I love it. I love that we have a doctor in the family. So, do tell me a little bit about how you decided and why you decided to become a doctor, and then specifically, what drew you to OBGYN?
Okay. So I had toyed with the idea of becoming a doctor for a long time. And I went to college and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's too hard. And for a hot minute, I think I was a business major for maybe 30 seconds. And
Okay.
then I started all my pre-med classes. And if anything makes you want to go to medical school less than other people who want to go to medical school, I would like to know what it is. I toyed with it for a while and then I switched my major to genetics and then I really liked it. But at the end of college, I was like, I don't know if I want to go to med school or not. So I took a few years off and did research. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to do research. This is real boring and they don't pay you real well. And it's hard to get a job. So I was like, okay, I do want to go to medical school because I really like people. I like talking to people. I like a job where it's doing. It makes it seem like I don't think about anything, but like I like to do and think at the same time. So then I went to medical
Yes.
school and I did not think I would become an OBGYN. It was very much not in my mind. I was like, I only women patients, like it's so narrow. So I actually put it as my first rotation in third year medical school because I was like, I don't want to do this. So I'll warm up with something I don't want to do. And then I got there and I loved it. And I was like, oh, I don't love it because it's OBGYN. I just love it because I'm not in class anymore. So this isn't real. I'm not going to do this. So then I kept doing other things. And I was like, could you do all your rotations? And then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I think I really do like that. And so what drew me to it is it's medical. So there's a lot of medical conditions that you can treat in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
surgical. There's a lot of surgeries you can do. And most things, for the most part, it's healthy patients. So when people
Yeah.
come to you, they have a specific problem, probably not going to last their whole life. Some yes, some no. And it's something you can fix. So I very
Mm-hmm.
much like the idea of you come to me, I was like, oh, we can solve this problem. We can do medicine, we can do surgery. And so very much I was like, okay, this is the right spot for me. And then I did it and I haven't turned back.
Oh, that is awesome. I think I would have a great time delivering babies myself, but
I like the surgery more than the delivering babies, but I do like the delivering babies too.
it freaks me out to even think about surgery. So there you go.
That's okay. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, I know. Okay, what is the most challenging thing about being a woman in medicine, either when you started or now? And is it different?
I think there's a couple of different things that are challenging. I think one thing that is challenging and has been changing. So I started medical school in 2000. I graduated in 2004. And that is about the time when medical school classes started to be 50% women, if not a little bit more than 50% women.
Mm-hmm.
So I certainly wasn't in the era of we're the only one or things like that. So more and more women were in medicine, but people's biases are real, and the bias about what a woman would want to do as a career, whether she's going to have a family, whether she's not going to have a family, what she can do if she does, what she can do if she doesn't, that's all very real. So that's one thing. And I think it is changing over time. I think generationally, the new generation is saying, I can be a doctor, but I don't want to work this much.
Yeah.
And I want it to be more integrated in our lives. And I think I'm in that middle. Like it used to be, Like doctor was your full identity. It was men. They had stay-at-home wives. They did that. Someone took care of everything else. And then now it's getting more towards, hey, I am a doctor, but I'm also a person who does this or does that. So I think that has been one of the challenges. The other thing that I think is changing, but slower than I expected, is patients' perception of women as doctors. There are
Oh,
some patients, even in OBGYN, who are not so sure that a woman can take care of them in the same way a man can take care of them. It's much less in OBGYN for sure, but it's also very biased in like surgery versus delivering babies. Everyone assumes I'll deliver their baby, but sometimes I've taken care of a patient for weeks and I've done everything and I booked their surgery and they come to me and they're like, oh, so you do it? And I was like, yeah, I do it. It's me. And so I think it is changing, but realistically, I think it's changing slower than maybe the rest of the world, or maybe I'm giving the rest of the world too much credit. But and I think it's true for men too. Like we have a man in our department who was like, I also don't want to work this hard. I want to be home for my kids. So I think more women in medicine is helping make it a little bit more balanced for how much you're at work, how much you're at home. But yeah, misogyny is real, patriarchy is real. And like the studies show, like women are going into medicine at 50%, but women moving up into leadership in medicine is not catching up. And so the question is, do women not want to be leaders? Do the jobs that they have set up for women in leadership not fit with all of the other needs and things that they want? So it's changing, but not as much as I think people think it is.
gotcha. And do you think, just speaking with your other friends who maybe are in different professions, that healthcare is leading or lagging in the respect of women becoming leaders in leadership positions?
I feel like we're in the middle.
Okay.
I don't think medicine has ever been a trailblazer for progressiveness.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever have. But also I think by and large the women who go into medicine tend to be people who are vocal, who are going to speak up. And I think and also in healthcare we make decent money. We're in a space where I think it's a little bit easier to advocate for ourselves because if
Yeah.
I lose my job because someone's mad at me, I really can get another one. So I think we're in the middle. I think that, yeah, middle.
Yeah. Okay. The only reason why I was asking is because I know from a technology perspective, because I do system implementations and
Yeah.
change management for those, that my healthcare clients over the last probably 12 years are just catching up with some of the other industries
Mhm.
that I've worked with.
Oh, for sure.
From technology perspective,
Yeah.
EMRs just blew people's minds when they first came
Yes.
out. So
Yeah, no, it's true. And that has been within my career. Like I went from paper charting to EMR, and
yeah.
it's great in a lot of ways. It has some drawbacks, but it's great in a lot of ways. But yeah, medicine is just, we're never at the forefront.
Oh
Like
yeah, for sure.
we're always a little bit behind other people.
That's probably good though,
Yeah,
from a
there's a middle, yeah,
risk
there's a reason
perspective.
for it. Yes, exactly.
Other companies you can say, no one's going to die, just make the decision. Yeah. In this
Yeah,
case, that's not
they
able to be
could.
said.
Yeah, they could.
They could.
Exactly.
So this is probably my biggest curiosity question for you
Mhm.
is what have been some of the women's health topics that you've discussed with them that you were surprised they didn't already know?
Oh, all of them? I mean, but no, but I will say truthfully,
Mm-hmm.
all of them. I think
Mm,
that the United States, I can get more specific and I will, but like the United States does not do a good job with health literacy in general, like just
true.
overall. We also, depending on where people went to school, depending on like their backgrounds, people have a lot of misinformation about their own body. They have a lot of lack of knowledge of their own body. And I'll give an example where you say to a patient, where does it hurt? And they describe a part of their body, and you're like, no, that's not it. Just the difference between the number of people who don't know the difference between what is their vulva and what is their vagina. It's a large number of people. And I think it's because we're not teaching people that. And we have way too much body shame around just a normal anatomy. So I think
Yeah.
that's one. And I think it breaks my heart too when people come to you and you're just like, oh, you really didn't know this. And I thought everybody knew and they didn't. But some big topics, myths around birth control are huge. Like the
Mm.
belief that if you take birth control, it's going to affect your fertility in the future, that you can't take it now because you'll never be able to have a baby. So, like, just the pervasive myths around birth control. So, that's one. The other is deliberate misinformation around birth control. Like, for
Mm.
instance, the idea that some parts of our society put together that IUDs cause abortion. That's not true. So then
Yeah.
having a whole conversation around like that. So just pervasive birth control myths. Some other ones that I think are a little more surprising is like endometriosis. I think it's a very painful condition for a lot of women. And even in the best circumstances, it takes a long time to get diagnosed. But the
Uh-huh.
number of people who have no concept of it, and to be honest, even the number of physicians that dismiss what are very classic endometriosis signs because
Mm.
they're not listening to women as much. So endometriosis is a big one. People really don't know what it is, what causes it, why it's happening, and what the consequences are. So that's a really big one.
Right.
Um, Lots of myths around pregnancy, miscarriages, that people have caused their own miscarriage, that all of these things that they did led to their miscarriage. I think that
Uh-huh.
society blames and shames women for a lot of things that are completely outside their control. And so I think that's another one. C-sections making you not as much of a woman as a vaginal delivery, like all around that. People have different ideas around that. You're not a real person unless you have given vaginal birth, things around that. Things around
Goodness.
menopause and aging, like just everything or that. Like, and I think that's having a moment. Menopause is certainly having a moment, and
Oh,
people
thank
are getting
goodness.
yeah, they're getting a lot more information about it. But I do think because the United States, we have poor health literacy, people get taken advantage of also
Yes.
because it's easy if you don't know the basics, it's really easy to convince you of something that's not true. And so the number of people who equate people who listen to you and being kind to you as people who are providing you good service. In a perfect world, doctors should be nice, they should be kind, they should listen to you. But there is this idea that if someone listens to you for 30 minutes and then offers you a whole lot of tests and then comes back with a whole lot of supplements they sell, that you are getting good care. And it can be
Yeah.
true, but it isn't always true.
Oh, that's for sure. That I personally have experienced going to one of the whole healthcare clinics.
Mhm.
They did a big, huge blood panel on me and supplied me with all these supplements. And maybe it was just me, but I didn't feel any different. And so it wasn't better service. It was making them more money.
Yes,
And
and
they
I
are
think
not cheap.
no, they're not. They're not. And I think it's easy to assume that if you're going to pay all this money, you're going to get something good, and it isn't always the case.
So I didn't know a whole lot about menopause because I grew up in the South. You didn't, our family.
Yes, I
So
do.
there
My
wasn't a
mom
lot of,
did.
yeah, exactly. There's not a lot of discussion about women's
Yeah,
stuff. It just
right.
didn't come up. And so when I went into menopause and all of a sudden I became a raging lunatic because
Yeah.
I felt different. I sweat at the drop of a hat, which I'd never done in my life. These hot flashes felt like they were burning my eyes out. And I went
Mhm.
to my primary care. She didn't want to give me anything for it. And I said, "You don't understand. I stand up in front of executives and
Right.
I train. I can't just bloom into a sweat blob right in front of all these
Mhm.
people and still have my credibility. This is impacting not just my life, but my job and my ability to make a
Mhm.
living." So that was pretty much the only way that I got any relief.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So there was the Women's Health Initiative, which has been quite
Mhm.
a few years ago, and it really scared primary care doctors. It really did.
Mm.
And not to get like too deep into it, but they gave women hormones in their 60s. like women who hadn't had hormones for about 10 years, and then they gave them hormones. And yeah, that isn't a great idea. And there
Right.
were a lot of consequences to that, but that
Mhm.
isn't what people are doing currently or even then. Like people very much are giving hormones around the menopause transition, which
Right.
is a lot safer. But what has happened is like OBGYNs in general, not everyone, are much more willing to give patients hormones. I particularly am willing to give them for a lot longer in well-selected patients, but primary care doctors are not. And for primary care doctors, they have to know everything about hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, heart disease. They have a wider range. So I don't fault them for
Mm-mm.
not knowing the details of hormone replacement therapy. But I do think it's one of the reasons that it's important for women to see an OBGYN. I do think we
Yes.
provide different health care. You should not come see me for your blood pressure or your diabetes. For sure you shouldn't. You absolutely should for hormone changes, hot flashes, things like that.
Absolutely. And that's eventually how I wound up getting some treatment is I went to someone who understood the details of it better.
Yeah.
So, also, what is the biggest transition that you've been through, either personally or professionally? And this is just words of wisdom, not
Mhm.
necessarily as a doctor, but as just a woman leading your life.
Yeah.
What did you learn from a big transition in your life?
Oh, okay. Probably my biggest transition, like my professional, one of the biggest professional transitions is I very much did not want to deliver babies. So I was like, all right, that's not what I'm going to do. I did a fellowship in minimally invasive gynecology, and I was like, you know what? I'm just doing gynecology. That's really what I want. So I
Yeah.
stayed in an academic place, which is where I trained. And I was like, this is it. This is my job. And it was not a good job. It was not a good
Uh-oh.
job for me. It was not a good job. And I think one of the things is for me is giving up what I thought I wanted for what I really wanted. And so it was, I tend to hang on to things too long. I'm like, oh, I made this decision. I'm going to stick with it. It's going to be great. And the thing was, it wasn't, but I kept sticking it out, not too long. I probably stuck it out 6 to 8 months longer than I should have. But I was like, I have been here for a really long time. I know all these people. This is a good spot. And so then I went and I left and I decided I was going to deliver babies again. I was like, okay, this is not a trade-off I'm willing to take. And so I
Mm-hmm.
took the leap from academics into an integrated multi-specialty group. So that was a huge transition. And I was like, I was so scared
Yeah.
because and I think the thing is recognizing that when something is wrong, like I wait until it's so wrong that almost anything else is better. But like I think but like my word of wisdom is once you know it's wrong, you don't have to convince yourself for 6 to 8 more months. Like you can just go
Mhm.
ahead and just say this isn't the right fit, this isn't the right thing. So for me, my word of wisdom for those of us who are resistant to change is that you do know when it's time for a change and to make it. And
Right.
if I had made it into something that also wasn't right, that doesn't mean I couldn't have made another change. And I think
Absolutely.
that is my biggest, if I could, I need to remind myself all day, every day that I can make changes. And that's not a bad thing if you decide need to do something different. So for me, that's my own words of wisdom for myself. And I'm sure somebody else has the same personality type.
Oh, yeah. I have a daughter. Actually, both daughters seem to take longer. But then again, I'm the opposite. My
Yeah.
intuition drives me. As soon as I feel it, I do it. I try to figure out how to get it done.
And the worst thing
So
is I have a similar, like my intuition tells me, and then I listen to my intuition in so many spaces, but in this one, I'm like, maybe not. And yeah, I think our intuition is
uh-huh.
right more often than it's wrong.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. Hey, three more. Three more
Okay, I'm ready.
questions. All
I'm
right.
ready.
This one is I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay. And describe the picture that appears in your mind when I say wise woman.
It's actually going to be my mom. Can I open my eyes or do I need to keep
Yes,
them
you
closed?
can. You can open your
Okay. It's
eyes.
going to be my mom. It's going to be my
Mhm.
mom, honestly. Like my mom is someone who will tell you to listen to your intuition.
Uh-huh.
Like she really does. She'll tell you to take care of your money too. But I think my mom, one of the things that I think I have learned most from her is that, one, you should listen to your intuition. You know who you are, you know what is right, you know what is right for you, and you should listen to that. The other thing is, like, my mom very much is, you treat people well, period. It doesn't matter if they treat you well. You don't have to put up with that, but you still treat them well. And I think that has been something that has helped me in my life and in my career. And my mom means everyone. It doesn't matter. The power is not relevant in how you treat people, what they're wearing, what they look like, what they smell. None of those things are relevant. Every person should be treated well. But you are allowed to set your boundaries and say, okay, the way you're treating me is not okay, but that doesn't give you the right to be terrible to somebody else. Yeah, I'm going to say my mom. You might have had more questions in there, but I just kept rolling.
No, I love it. I love that. I love that. Okay, my next question is, where do you like to roam?
Oh, I'm not much of a roamer. I'm a little bit of a roamer. I do like to travel every so often, but my easiest roaming is actually through books.
Yeah.
Like, that is my, like, very quick, I can't go anywhere, but I can go somewhere in a book. And that is my, like, go-to. The day is hard, I want to read something trashy. The day, like, I really, like, if things are rough, I'd like to read a murder mystery and they're going to solve that and get to the end of it. So for me, I like big roams every once in a while, but the little ones are going to be through books.
Oh, wow. You're a woman after my own heart, an English major. So
I know.
love to roam. I love to even just sit and relax and roam through my own thoughts every once in a while.
Yeah, it's true. Or even I live real close to this little hiking spot, and you don't want to go on the weekends because it's packed. But, like, on a weekday, it's nice. It's only like a mile from my house, but you get outside and it feels like you're so far away, even though you're not.
Yeah,
I
that's
like that too.
amazing. And then finally, this is my last question I ask
All right.
everyone. What makes you restless?
Oh my goodness. Change makes me restless, makes me real restless. Feeling like I'm not doing the right thing for me makes me really restless. Those are two of the really big ones. They make me feel very restless. But yeah, change, like, all day, every day. And I'm better at it. Like, medicine doesn't stay the same. I'm doing something different all the time, but change makes me very restless. Find it hard to settle into it. I get apprehensive and anxious. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's great. I can help you with that. No.
Okay, yeah.
I'm the opposite. I instigate change just because I'm
Yeah.
bored, you know.
Yeah. I'm bored and I'm like, oh, I'll find something else to do, but right here.
It takes every kind, and there's wisdom to
It
be
does.
had everywhere we look, and with every woman and the occasional man, but every woman we
Sure.
talk with, there's the
Yes.
iconic wise woman, and she lives in every culture.
Mhm.
And she typically is the bedrock, you know, of the community,
Yeah.
the family, the matriarch, etc. And that is why I absolutely love to work and talk with women of all ages. But a lot of times I find it's more fun to talk with the ones who've been around for a while.
Yeah.
It's
They
a
have
lot
more
of
to
fun.
give.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Erin. It has been
You're
a
very
pleasure.
welcome.
Thanks for helping me out with my new endeavor here.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.